Hello everybody, good evening and welcome here to the Prog Monster. This is a channel that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. My name is Murph and I am the host of this show. So we're here to do an episode of What's New, coming out around 8 o'clock approximately. The band we're featuring today is Jon Anderson and the band of Geeks doing the album True. So basically this is a Jon Anderson solo album in which he uses the band of Geeks as his backing band. Album was released August the 23rd, 2024. It's about 58 minutes or so in length on the Frontiers label and produced by Jon Anderson and Richie Castanello. Okay, on the album, appearing on the album, Jon Anderson, lead vocals and harp. Richie Castanello, bass, keyboards, and vocals. Andy Ascolas, drums, percussion, keys, and vocals. Andy Graziano, guitars and vocals. Christopher Clark, keyboards. Robert Kipp on Hammond organ and vocals. And Anne-Marie Nachero on doing additional vocals as well. So there are 9 tracks in total on the album. A lot going on here. I wasn't sure how I was going to receive this album because I've liked some of Jon Anderson's work in the past. I especially like his stuff with Yes, obviously, but some of his solo stuff I haven't been as keen on. So this album, it's got its good points, its strong points, and it's got its less than spectacular parts as well. So I'm going to go down, break them up by song by song. So the opening track, which is True Messenger, this is also, I believe, the first single on the album. The vocals are strong, very Jon Anderson, and his voice is perfect. I mean, this guy's 79 years old. His voice sounds exactly the same as it did on those Yes albums back in the 60s and 70s. No change. I don't see any change to his vocals at all. There might be some vocal musicians or vocal coaches out there that might see some differences in his voice. I do not see any. It's got a very clear and heavy sound to this track as well. Strong instrumentation and lots on all of the instruments are strong. The drumming, the guitar, the bass, the keyboards, everything's strong here. I think the guitar player really takes the center stage here with his guitar solo, which I think is pretty damn good. Bass is strong, and parts of the keyboard parts are pretty good too. I think the drummer is exceptional as well. He just has an ability that you don't see as often on these type of albums. I think he doesn't really sound like either of the Yes drummers, Bruford or Alan White. He just has his own style, which seems to fit the music very well here. Next track up, and that was probably my favorite track. So from this point on, I was pretty enthusiastic after this track. I really liked this track. I think it was a great track. And then it just kind of drifted and went down and down, and pretty much that's where it's going to go here. So the next one is called Shine On. Lots of strong harmony here. Very reminiscent of what you might get on the 90125 album. Both the guitar and the bass are pretty heavy on this track, though. The instrumentation is really strong. The difference between this and, say, a 90125 song is that 90125 was... They both have the similar sound, but this is much more... the instrumentation on here is much more sophisticated, much more detailed, much more involved than it was on that album. There are some brief acoustic... I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Both heavy... overall, the instrumentation really strong, like I said. Vocals, again, very strong. Maybe the strongest part of this particular track. The next track out is called Counties and Countries. So this... heavy up-tempo with some very heavy guitar parts on this, maybe the heaviest parts of guitar parts on the whole album. Lots of soloing, lots of heavy riffing. Not something you would find on Yes. This is not that Steve Howe kind of guitar sound. This is more of a scorchy type sound, more of a metallic type almost sound here. It has its acoustic interludes, which are not bad. They break the song up a bit. Vocals, once again, strong and clear. This song is a better track than the Shine On track, but doesn't come back to that True Messenger height. Next up is Build Me an Ocean. So this has a piano opening with a more subdued feel to it. The vocals of Jon Anderson, again, very strong. I think his vocals are very clear, very strong. Obviously, great production on the album. I don't know if they've augmented his vocals at all. I can't tell because I'm not a vocal coach or anything. But if they have augmented, they've done an excellent job because his voice sounds the same as it always does. Okay, so that's Build an Ocean. Not a bad track, but not a great one either. Still a Friend. This one's a little bit better, I think. The vocals, again, very strong. Yeah, Jon Anderson just greatly on tune here, I think. Instrumentation is really good. This song, though, is when I started to notice that it starts to meander a bit. There's a little bit too much going on, a little too much meandering. I kind of like a nice melody or a catchy riff or something to tie the song from beginning to end. That's a little bit lacking on that track. It meanders a bit. That's all I can say about it. Make It Right. This one and the next song, Peak Realization Part 2, I think are the two worst tracks on the album. Even though it starts out good, Make It Right. It has that acoustic flamingo-like guitar and then classical bits to it. The song actually sounds was a little bit reminiscent of Turn of the Century off Going for the One, but after it starts to go for a bit, it just kind of loses me a bit. There's, again, a lack of melody on this track. Next up, you have Realization Part 2. This is the other track I thought was a little weak. The only reason I like this one slightly better is because it's shorter. That's it. So you got guitar opening, kind of a bit of a pastoral sound, almost a Western feel to it at points. The vocals, again, are strong and clear. Harmony vocals dominate this track. Got that kind of a bit of a country feel to it, this song. It's not country by any stretch, but it has a little bit of that feel going on. The next track out is the longest track on the album by quite a bit. It's over 16 minutes, Once Upon a Dream. Now, this is the one they said had an almost roundabout, fragile sound to it. I didn't hear it. It's a bit epic sounding at the beginning. Harmony vocals are pretty good. Some catchy track. It kind of has a little bit more of a Changes feel to it than I think it does to a Roundabout feel. The only difference is with Changes, again, that 90125, very simple, very basic melody and chorus, which I think made that album very strong. This has some of that, but it tends to meander a bit as well, and there's a lot more sophistication in the instrumentation on this particular track. The last track on the album, I think, is the worst track on the album, so they didn't end off very well. Thank God. This is a very quiet, solemn song. Jon Anderson's voice, of course, is great. This is very Jon Anderson-like song that you would find on a lot of his solo stuff. Very emotionally charged, very marshmallowy in a lot of ways. It's got that really soft, lovey-dovey, kiss me, hug me feeling going on. Not the best track. Maybe I misspoke. Maybe it isn't the worst track, but it's not one of the better tracks. In fact, the best track on the album was the opening track, and then from there it kind of is weaker. There's a little bit, some of it's good, some of it's not so good. Overall, I think it's a very average, almost forgettable album in some ways. If not for the instrumentation, the strong instrumentation, and Jon Anderson's vocals being spot on and great, I think the album would have not passed for me. But because of those two things, I had to give it a pass. I gave it probably a 6 out of 10. So not bad overall, but certainly it was a little bit disappointing after the opening track. So anyways, that's all I have to say today about Jon Anderson and the Band of Geeks album True. I hope you've liked this episode. If you have, please hit the like and subscribe and the notification bell. Any comments about the album, please leave them in the comment section below. And we will be back next Saturday night with another What's New. So take care and goodbye.